I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, January the 22nd, where most guys are saying, this is my kind of week. Starting out here on Monday, they got Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so the board's closed. Can't get hurt, the board's closed on a Monday, so you can at least get your foot started on the week on the right track without having anything pull the rug out from under you. And then if we continue to have this government shutdown, there'll be no cattle on feed report on Friday. So we don't have to worry and fret over what's going to happen on there. So we've only got 2 or 3 days in there that things can really go wrong. And we actually started out on Monday not too awful bad, considering the big failure that we had last week on the fat cattle trade after all the storms and the cold weather and everything sapping the weight off of these cattle and having a light volume sold to the packers the week before. Still a big failure, not able to gain any ground or market position last week. So really we had a pretty good day on Monday with the feeder cattle sales, and we'll get to talking about that here in just a minute. But no board to talk about, so let's talk about your fat cattle trade. We've had 2 light weeks in a row. Now we didn't really know, we knew we had a steady market this past Friday, and very disappointing on that. They had actually sold some cattle scattered around in the northern plains a buck higher, but were unable to keep a hold of that higher market, and the southern plains just couldn't get anything going, and a few guys just really needed to sell some cattle, so they went ahead and sold them steady. So 124 and 197, but only 55,500 in your 5-area feeding region. We need to be getting close to that 100,000 head to keep things cleaned up. But with the way the mud and the storms have been pulling these cattle back, you know, the guys are really hoping for some decent weather and a little bit of solid footing to get these cattle kind of propped back up and get some weight under them again. But it's the packers that are going to need cattle, guys. They definitely got to have some cattle. And so there's 2 weeks there that they're short bought. They haven't been buying a lot of cattle out front for the 15 to 30 day delivery. They're going to need some cattle. Assuming that the feeders will ask more for cattle this week, they should get it this week, and they're due for a big movement of cattle, or purchases anyway, and they've got to get things shored up because they're wanting to run pretty hard. They're still making money on these cattle. They may not be making the big bucks that they were making before, but your packers haven't had a day of red ink in a long time, but they need to fill their coffers up a little bit. But on your live steers, like I said, 124 was the market. Look at your weighted average on live steers in the whole 5-area feeding region was 123.98. So no cattle off the market, not very many cattle over the market, but that 123.98 weighted average was 27 cents better than the previous week's weighted average. Your dress steers, 197 was the market. Your weighted average on all the dress steers sold in the 5-area feeding region, 196.99. 21 cents better than the previous week, even though it was a steady market. Nationwide, they sold 73,600 head of negotiated cash fed cattle, which is small too, but only 17% of those, or 12,300, were for the 2 to 4 week delivery. So the packers are not setting us up for a fall. They were really lucky that they were able to keep the market down where they have for the last 2 weeks. But assuming we get some guys in there that with a little bit of ice water in their veins and stand up to these guys and get some more market position here. The packers need the cattle. But there was even rumors on Monday that there were some more sales of steady. Normally your packers, on a Monday or Tuesday, you couldn't get last week's market, no matter what, because, you should have took it when it was available last week. But no, they're buying cattle steady on Monday, which is a bad deal because you hate to see anybody give it up on Monday steady sales, but also it's really showing chinks in the packers' armor, and then they're tipping their hand, showing that they need cattle. Didn't get any confirmation of that, but several people saying they heard a lot of stirrings of a few more cattle steady on Monday. Market News was having technical difficulties, even though they had a shortened staff there because of the government holiday. They are deemed to be necessary, so they are working, not getting paid, but they are working there. But we're not able to get the reports out to get any confirmation of those sales. Look at your feeder cattle market for Monday. Real-time index was 140.50. That's based on an 800-pound steer. That may not sound very good, but it was up 19 cents from the end of last week, which is the first time we've seen that real-time index higher on a daily move since the very first sales after we come back from the new year. You know, we had a New Year's holiday on Tuesday. There were some sales like Wednesday, Thursday that were a lot higher. You had guys hungry wanting to buy some cattle, or order buyers needing some commission, maybe more so. But that was the only time this year we've had a higher real-time index. It's just been steadily lower ever since then. So maybe we found a bottom on these feeder cattle. We say cattle, they're feeder calves. They're short yearlings now. You know, you don't have to be a calendar year old to really consider them a yearling. It more depends on what their background is, where they've been raised, how they've been handled, how long they've been weaned, and all that kind of thing. But we've sure enough into feeder cattle now. But OKC and Joplin both had lower receipts than what they were expecting, which is not unusual that they don't get their call, but they significantly did not make their call. And in both places it was considered because of the storm expectations that they were supposed to have over the weekend. Some producers were they were afraid if they got all the help in and they got the trailers lined up and everything to haul cattle, that they were going to get in a mess, get into some bad roads, some icy storms, things like that. It didn't end up happening, so the guys just stayed home and watched football on Sunday, and they didn't get their cattle in. But Oklahoma City only had 4,500 head. Your feeder steers and heifers, feeder cattle weights, $2 to $6 lower. Ouch. That was kind of a rough one there. It was on a lighter run. Maybe the guys couldn't dig in and really get filled what they wanted to, because I tell you what, you get very far north of there where your farmer feeders are involved, and the feeder cattle sold real well. Steer calves steady to $6 higher. Guys are continuing to push on stocker cattle in January. That's not unusual, but it sounds kind of funny for somebody that hadn't been watching the last several years. But really pushing on stocker cattle to get that early turnout when spring does come. Supposedly it's going to come, should come around April. But heifer calves, your little peewee heifer calves steady to $2 higher, but your 5-weight heifer calves $3 to $5 lower. Not a whole lot different in Joplin. Only 2,900 head in Joplin. The lighter weights there, the stocker weights weighing under 550 pounds, steady to $3 higher. Heavier weight cattle weighing over 550, which includes all your true feeder cattle, just steady. But let's look at a market that was up in the northern plains there. Not on Cattle Market Central. We'd love to have them on Cattle Market Central. Need to get a hold of the Shavens and talk to them, see if they would allow us to tap into that market, because it's a good one. West Plains, or West Point, Nebraska, not West Plains. West Point, Nebraska. Used to have a packing house there, but they closed that down several years ago. But West Point, Nebraska has a Going Jenny sale right now, and had a lot of the big buyers there. Talked to several of them that was there. They had one consignment of 1,200 Charolais cross steer and heifer calves there, and bigger cattle, short yearling cattle, that were really bringing the crowd in. People coming from all over to see what those cattle brought, try to buy them. And they were black-nosed Charolais, been weaned over 100 days, and I mean the right kind. But I got a couple of quotes out of there on some of the bigger steers. 189 in one whack. 657 pound Charolais cross steers off that deal bring $163, and then the heavier bunch, 162 head of them, weighed 782 at 152. Both very impressive on a big long string of top quality Charolais cross cattle right there in West Point, Nebraska. Let's go way back west to Stockland Livestock Auction and in Spokane, Washington. 69 head of 761 pound steers bring 146.50. Tell you what, that's right in there running where most of the loads are bringing in the central part of the U.S., and that's way out there in eastern Washington. Now let's say the highest quote of the day, Russell, Iowa, on a Monday. You can usually count on them for the high of the day. 72 head of 726 pound steers bring 159.60. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.